very welcome. My name is Katrina Morgan and I am in the Community Department in Galway City Council. Delighted to be here this evening with our colleagues in the GCCN to share some information with you in relation to the Community Enhancement Programme 2021 that's currently open for Galway City. In addition, I'm also the Chief Officer of the Galway City LCDC, so that's the Local Community Development Committee. Delighted to introduce Councillor Martina O'Connor, who's also a member of the committee at the moment. And again, obviously, you may know from your previous experience that the LCDC have a key role in terms of administering this grant programme on behalf of the department. And when we speak about the department in this regard, we're speaking about the Department of Rural and Community Development. So again, as Anne said, I'm going to share some slides. I'm just going to speak very briefly in relation to the programme. Obviously, some kind of key points that I think you should note at this stage. Obviously then as well, I think the devil will always be in the detail in terms of the Q&A. So again, obviously, when I share my screen, I may not be able to see you. So again, as Anne said, if you have a query or question, feel free to put it into chat or obviously hold it for the Q&A and we'll be happy to take it at the end. So I'm going to start sharing. I'm not that familiar with Zoom anymore, I have to say. Apologies now. So I'm assuming everybody can see that okay? Great. So again, look, just to start, Community Enhancement Programme, again, probably in our 4th year of this, known obviously locally as CEP. Again, the key thing there is that this funding comes from the Department of Rural and Community Development, comes into Galway City Council, and obviously it is administered by Galway City LCDC. Obviously, some of the key headline points, and again, this has gone out in our emails and obviously on our information so far. Again, at the moment, it is currently open, and again, so we are inviting applications for funding from interested community or voluntary groups, or indeed community or voluntary organisations within the Galway City administrative area. And again, I suppose that's a key thing to note in terms of the local authority, that obviously our boundary is within the city. Again, I understand that our colleagues in Galway County Council currently have their Community Enhancement Programme open. It's a separate call, it's a separate fund, it's a separate local authority. Again, I understand theirs is currently open. I think their closing date is a slightly later date to ours in July. So again, if you've got any colleagues or groups, again, that are operating and have a presence in the county, again, I would advise you to make contact with Galway County Council directly, check out their website or social media, and again, you'll have details on theirs. In terms of us, in terms of Galway City, obviously LCDC, we have been allocated an amount of 132,455 under the programme. So again, very welcome, very similar to previous years, and again, you know, very much of value to the city and very much of value to the sector as well. Again, obviously the aim, and again, the aim is the aim that has largely been in place over the last number of years in terms of this programme. And again, the aim is to provide funding to enhance facilities in disadvantaged areas, or indeed to enhance facilities that are being accessed or used by disadvantaged communities. So we are that little bit sort of broader in terms of our understanding on that. Obviously this time round, and obviously living with COVID and coming through COVID as we all have done, this iteration of the programme will provide grants towards projects or equipment, again enhancing facilities. So again, similar to previous years, many of you are familiar with that and many of you have been successful in that regard. But also this iteration is also going to look to and speak to grants towards costs that would be associated with reopening a facility, or indeed the sustainability of facility. And we'll come back to that latter point later on, because I think that's a kind of that's a slight difference, and that's key though to this programme. So we'll come back and speak on that just shortly. Again, obviously, in terms of the programme, and again, in terms of a recommendation that comes to us again from the department, again, there's always that, I suppose, ask and that provision that we would look to ring fence an amount of funding. And again, it's you know, around the 30% mark, again, if the level of demand and interest is there. And again, that's really to look to support the smaller groups. So again, obviously, you know, we don't want to see the 132 being kind of swallowed up by a few big projects. Again, the provision is there and the flexibility is there within the programme, that again, the smaller groups that are looking to reopen, restart, look for that little bit of leg up, that little bit of support, that again, that the flexibility is there. And again, Galway City LCDC it looks on that very, very favourably, and that has been applied, you know, heretofore in the programme over the last number of years. Again, look, there's no limit on the number of applications for different projects from an individual organisation, but I'm saying it for about 4 years now that it is competitive. It is always competitive. That's very welcome. So again, you know, it is always the key project, the key cost, the key item that you need to reopen your facility, or indeed keep your facility sustainable for 2021. That really should be coming to the fore this time round. Obviously, applications online only, and again, that's similar to how we've done this last year. And again, it's online, closing date Friday the 18th of June at 5 p.m. And again, the link is included in the slide. And again, the link has gone out and it has been circulated. So again, online only, Friday the 18th of June. So tomorrow week is our closing date. And again, as always, you know, commercial organisations, individuals not eligible to apply for funding. We don't see a huge amount of them coming through the fore. But again, it is just important to point that out at this stage. In terms of projects then that are eligible for funding, and again, look, this is within the guidelines, this is within the scope of the programme, and again, this iteration of the Community Enhancement Programme will provide grants towards projects or equipment that are needed to enhance the facility. And again, that's similar to previous years. So again, you may be familiar with that, and you'll be familiar with that terminology and that approach. And also one-off grants towards the costs associated with the reopening of a facility, or indeed the sustainability of a facility. And I suppose just to speak to that latter point at this stage, obviously we are aware at a local level, indeed the department are aware at a national level, that a number of community and voluntary groups and indeed organisations haven't been in a position to open or engage or provide services for a considerable number of months, many even up onto a year at this stage. And again, obviously, as they're looking to reopen their facility, re-provide their service, re-engage with their community, they may face costs like an insurance cost or a reopening cost or utility bills. So this time round, under this programme, those types of costs are eligible under this programme. And again, those costs are only costs that are being incurred in 2021. So if, for example, you decide you're going to change something next year, well, that's not an eligible cost. It doesn't fall within this calendar year. So again, that is not an eligible cost. And again, the important thing there really is the reopening of the facility. So there is that assumption there that the group is in situ, that the facility is in situ, and that there is a physical building there or a room there or some type of space there. So again, it's that cost that you may now be facing, or indeed faced, in terms of getting yourself back out. So again, that is that. And again, it's a one-off grant. So this wouldn't be something that would be kind of even a monthly cost. This would be a one-off cost that you would be facing, or indeed you may have already faced, in terms of reopening your facility for this year. Obviously, again, that's just speaking to my point there. Again, it is all around the reopening. And again, that could be utility bills. It could be an annual charge. And again, obviously, in terms of the calendar year and the governance around this, it is only costs that are falling for payment in 2021. And they're the only costs then that are eligible. Again, as always, and again, if we go back to the very first comment that I've made, again, it is talking about supporting disadvantaged, and again, that's either supporting facilities that are in disadvantaged areas, or indeed facilities that are used largely by groups who may be marginalised or disadvantaged. And again, that is still a key requirement of the programme. There isn't any difference there. And again, look, many of you will be aware that we have a local economic and community plan, an LECP, in place for the city at the moment. Again, we're coming into the last 2 years of our current plan. And again, you know, we do want projects and applications to speak to that. And again, a copy of that plan can be viewed online. So again, I would ask as part of this process to look at that and to see how your project and your priority project possibly at this stage can speak to that and can assist in the overall delivery of that. Again, costs that are eligible for funding, and again, I suppose just to note that anybody that maybe is sort of maybe new to this and maybe hasn't, you know, had the opportunity to apply under a previous community enhancement programme, in particular last year when we moved online as a result of COVID. The guidelines are up online. So as you go on to the portal in terms of starting to make your application, you can actually download a copy of the guidelines, and you can download a copy of the questions that you are going to be asked. So again, all of this content that I'm explaining here, this is all on the portal. It is all available online. But again, obviously, the types of projects that could receive funding. So these would be the types of projects over the types of costs. So these are the types of projects that could be funded under the programme. So again, you've got projects that look to develop and enhance community amenities, obviously energy efficiency type projects, obviously the purchase of equipment, and obviously that's in line with the ethos of your group and the type of service that you provide. So that could be IT equipment, it could be other types of equipment. And then obviously, again, very much adaptations or equipment that may be needed as a result of COVID-19. And again, that could be PPE equipment. Again, if a space hasn't opened or hasn't reopened for a period of time, again, adaptations may still need to be made. And again, that is an eligible cost. Again, funding can be used, and again, these are just examples. Again, examples of, you know, upgrades to a facility, equipments. Again, it can be IT equipment, it can be energy efficiency, it can be development of a facility, indoor or outdoors. And again, obviously, like I said, it can be under this iteration a grant towards the reopening. Again, in terms of what's eligible, there is always a flip side of the coin. So again, there's also what is not eligible. And again, this is very, very similar to previous iterations. So again, you know, you may have had that question before, and again, obviously it would still apply. So again, in terms of what's not eligible for funding, well, again, obviously any project that is not within the ethos of the programme. And again, we go back to the ethos of the programme, which again is to support and enhance facilities, either in disadvantaged areas or indeed with disadvantaged communities. But obviously other costs, employment costs, that's not a once-off cost, that's an ongoing cost. That's more of an operational cost, so it wouldn't be seen of a capital nature. So again, there's types there. So employment costs, project management fees, feasibility studies, research, those types of costs are not eligible under this programme. Obviously, like I said, and as a result of COVID, like everything else, we moved online with our application process and indeed our system last year. So again, our online portal, you know, again, I would advise you, if you haven't already had a look at it, and the link is obviously on the slide, to please do have a link of it, have a link. There are a number of questions. They do, you know, some are mandatory, they do need to be completed, but obviously your application is only within the detail that's submitted online. So again, you know, you do need to take a little bit of time, become familiar with the guidelines, become familiar with the list of questions. Obviously, there's the opportunity to save and re-enter and do all of that. But again, you know, it can take a little bit of work, particularly if you're a first timer to this. So again, I would be asking you to have a look at that sooner rather than later. Obviously, as well, in terms of the assessment and in terms of the application, it is only documentation that is submitted with your application online, you know, kind of maybe saying, sure, you know this group and you know our history and you know all of that kind of, you know, isn't part of the process. So again, it is a fully completed application and it does have to be submitted online. Again, a copy of the guidelines and again, including our terms and conditions, again, they're available on that portal, and again, they're there to assist with your online application. Again, deadline to reiterate, Friday the 18th of June, 5 p.m. And again, that's the link to the portal. And obviously between now and then, and again, we're getting quite a few email queries in, which is always great, because again, there is a very good level of interest at this stage. But again, all queries, please email them to that email address, which is c&c@galwaycity.ie. They will be responded to, they will be checked. So again, please dedicate that. And obviously for anybody who has maybe submitted an application at this stage and obviously is familiar with it, again, there is an additional sort of point in the application form this year, which is coming from the department in terms of putting in a coordinate, which is just really a kind of an air code, for want of a better word, of your building. And again, obviously that's going to feed on up to a kind of a national profile picture of funding. So again, there is an extra sort of small section in terms of putting in your coordinates. And again, there's a short, simple guide online, in terms of how to do that. So again, if you're new to this, or if you're familiar with this, there is an extra section. So don't get too surprised. Again, some of the program requirements, and again, if your project is successful, these are your terms and conditions, for want of a better word. So we do go through these with you at time of offer, and then obviously working through them. But obviously, in terms of a program requirement, one of the key things at application stage obviously is your cost. And again, obviously within that, we operate within the procurement or the purchasing sort of structure within Galway City Council. And again, I suppose just to summarize, because these may have changed and indeed maybe changed over the last number of years, but for a project cost up to 3,000, then you will be asked to include, so that's to attach, obviously, one written estimate or quote. So it's one written estimate or quote for the works you're going to carry out within the date, and that's up to 3,000. And obviously then, if you're considering either purchasing something or doing a larger project, that's going to cost from 3 up to 25. So that's quite a wide, broad category there. Then you do need to seek a minimum of 3 written estimates and quotations from independent suppliers. Okay, now I suppose the key thing then within that sort of latter category, which we do see the larger number of projects coming in heretofore. So again, for project costs from 3,000 up to 25,000, we are conscious, and we were very conscious last year, that obviously a huge part of the construction sector weren't open. So again, it was very difficult for community and voluntary groups in the first instance to try and get 3 written quotations at application stage. So obviously now we're not in that situation at the moment. Obviously most of our sectors have reopened, and that's all very, very welcome. So I don't envisage it being such an issue or such a difficulty. But again, if it is an issue or if it is a difficulty, you do need to submit evidence to us that you sought the quotes. Okay, and again, the evidence would be your email to the contractor or your email to the supplier. Now, obviously, we would hope that they would come back to you and that you would obviously contact them in time. But again, the evidence is sufficient if it's needed. So again, just to clarify that, because again, we were conscious last year, and indeed even into late last year, that some groups were getting sort of, kind of caught up and a bit bothered about this. So again, look, we want to be as supportive and we want to be as flexible. So we do want to see the estimate and the quote if it's up to 3,000. And again, that shouldn't be that difficult. But again, if you're coming into sort of the larger costed project, which is 3,000 to 25,000, we would really ask you to give time, really follow up, and really try to submit 3 written quotations from independent suppliers as well. But obviously, if that can't happen, again, the evidence is sufficient at application stage. Obviously then, as normal in terms of consents, again, it depends on the nature, type, scale, extent of the project. But again, obviously, if there's a permission required or consent needed, obviously that needs to be submitted at application stage. Obviously, in terms of acknowledgement of funding, and again, obviously we work through each group on that. And again, I have to say, Galway City LCDC has taken a very practical approach in terms of providing each one of our projects last year with a little sort of sign for them to put up at their premises with the logos and the acknowledgements on it. So again, that will continue. But again, the logos and the acknowledgements are very, very important. Match funding, because this funding is coming to us directly from the Exchequer, again, there's no sort of country there. So again, match funding. So again, it's not a requirement under this. So again, you don't need to have match funding, but obviously, you know, if you do have some funding in place or some support to put towards it, again, obviously that would be welcome. And again, obviously all successful applications, all funding is processed and paid only by bank account. Again, obviously that's our procedures and that's our processes, and that applies to the programme. In terms of the overall programme, obviously the overall end date for us is the end of December. So again, obviously in terms of letters of offers and as we work through the process, again, we would be hopeful that we will be bringing recommendations to the LCDC at their July meeting for approval. And obviously, subject to those being approved, we would be hoping that our letters or emails of offers would be going out towards the last week of July. So again, we would be looking at a 4 to 5 month window or time frame for you to be able to carry out your project. But again, our overall time frame is the end of December, and we do work with groups individually on that if needed. And again, obviously to note that again, it's funded by the Department of Rural and Community Development, and again, highlighting the press link because we are required to do that, but obviously the broader press release is there in terms of the overall programme. Obviously it's 4.5 million at a national level, and again, our allocation is 132,455. Finally, just to note, as many of you will be aware, we continue to operate and provide our community call helpline service. So again, just to let you know, for your groups, your organisations, individuals on the ground, we are still in situ. It is free phone, 1-800-400-150, or by email address there at the bottom. So again, just to let you know that that is in situ and still providing a much needed service across Galway City in our collective response to COVID-19.